Hi, everybody. This is Eddie White, president of the English Language Testing Society, and I'm doing my second interview with somebody from the language testing and assessment field. And I'm here with Jim Brosman. And Jim, thank you for joining us, for responding to some questions about language testing in your field. So, can we get started? And I'll just ask you, can you tell us a little bit about your job? What is your job, your position now?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Dr. White, for having me today. And let me say I was very excited to hear about the formation of the English Language Society. I think there is a great role for this organization to play in our field. So I have the pleasure of being the president of iTEP International. iTEP is the International Test of English Proficiency. I guess beyond that, a little bit about myself, but my background is about 25 years in higher ed. Started out as study abroad for the domestic students, spent many years recruiting international students, traveling the world, worked my way up through international programs, associate VP of international. So I'm very familiar with the university campus. And in the past 10 years or so, I've been in private consulting, started out as the Midwest distributor for iTEP, sold iTEP to about 15 states in the Midwest.
Right.
And then last year I came to the office here in California to work here in the administration. iTEP, I describe iTEP as a teenager in terms of our life. We are 18 years old, so we are not a 40 or 50-year-old senior citizen company, but we're not a startup. There's some tests that have popped up in the past couple of years. We're not a startup. We have about 12 solid years of testing data. We have two families of exams, our professional tests, which we sell to a lot of companies that use it as in their HR as part of their hiring. And then we're probably more well known for our academic testing. We do a lot of admissions testing, a lot of testing for our partner schools who have IEP, ESL programs on campus, now at home assessment. But I have a great job. My job is to work with the great team of iTEP people here in Los Angeles. We have an office in Canoga Park, but we also have graders spread out across the United States. We have test content developers spread across the United States. And then we have operations on the ground in 61 countries. So we have a lot of international partners, whether those are distributors who sell our products or partner schools who use our products. But my job is just to work with everyone and to facilitate their iTEP testing needs.
Great, Jim. I guess I have the idea that your job is kind of to keep an eye on everything and coordinate things and coordinate people. You know.
Yes, I think that's I'm very fortunate. We have a great team at the iTEP headquarters, and we have great partners around the world. And so my job is really to provide the resources to our partners, making sure my credo is very, very simple. We make good tests, we sell good tests, we service good tests, and so that's really what we've broken it down to. In terms of helping our partner schools and our students and test takers.
That's great. Kind of as some guiding themes for the interviews, I've been asking people about challenges and choices. So it's, I guess the recent COVID-19 situation is a kind of a challenging time for everybody. But what could you tell us? What do you think are the main challenges that you face, either the company or your role as president, maybe?
Sure. Well, I think the biggest challenge or concern for us was how do we help our partners, whether those are partner schools or partner distributors around the world, how do we best help them with the COVID crisis? I think, the past 4, 5, 6 months, that's been the top concern of everyone is the health issue. So certainly safety first, and our office closed down in March here in Los Angeles, and we've been working remotely from home. But, end of February, early March, we started watching as our partners, first in China, all of our test centers shut down, and Japan, and then it moved to the Middle East, Turkey, and then it moved to South America. And so
Jim, sorry to interrupt, but is this primarily because, I know iTEP, like other exams, usually students need to test at official test centers. And was that a big issue there, that testing centers were closing and therefore the people not doing tests?
That was our number one challenge, because despite the COVID pandemic and despite everything for American and Canadian universities, the admissions cycle has never stopped. Those universities, recruiters are out there, maybe not traveling anymore, but virtually out there recruiting international students. And so as our test centers closed down, our partner schools came to us and said, we need your admissions test. How do you do it? So the big decision for us, the big challenge was, okay, our test centers are not open. How do we provide testing? So for us, it was moving our testing from our test centers and allowing admissions at-home testing.
So that was that a choice that you had kind of available anyway, or is this something that you guys decided just based on the recent situation?
I think it's something that we've been talking about and considering. We have great test centers around the world, but as technology changes and testing demands change, it was something that we were looking at, but COVID really accelerated that process. I mean, we were fortunate in that our professional testing, we've been delivering at home or to offices for several years now. So for us, we had the platform in place. It was only a matter of moving our academic testing on there. And so we literally talked about it on Thursday in March. And by the Tuesday of the next week, we had our admissions test fully ready to do at-home testing.
And Jim, I know also that with the at-home testing, I mean, one of the big challenges, of course, is test security, and you're trying to ensure that test takers are not using anything they shouldn't be using to help them with performance. So, was that a challenge also, just test security issues?
Yeah, I think that's the one of the immediate questions by our partner schools is, you're moving from a very controlled testing environment of a proctored test center, not only security, but also delivery. We know the internet speeds, we know the types of computers in a test center on a college campus we're using. Now we are delivering our test, virtually around the world to someone sitting at their kitchen or in their apartment on their couch. And so security is a very high concern. And we've made a number of upgrades. I think we always had good security, but we've made a number of upgrades in the past 90 days that has further helped our security. And so I'm very comfortable with the level of security we have. I tell people my name is on the bottom of the score reports. So if there's cheating, I kind of take it personally.
That's good. And Jim, so I mean the challenges you're mentioning and some of the choices that you've been making. So have you seen some of the consequences so far? How are things going, and how are things playing out with the choices you and your colleagues have made?
I think that in terms of admissions, we've been very successful. One of the positive things I think about moving our admissions testing at home is we have greater access. Prior to COVID, we had on the ground testing in 61 countries.
Yeah.
Now we can test in literally any country around the world, and we're getting tests for admissions to countries that we've never had any access in. I think that the caveat to that is access is good, but we want to make sure that we have security, as you mentioned, but also we don't want to compromise on the quality of the test. The test that we provide, the Academic Plus, is the same test that you would take in a test center. But so some of the positive is we've provided greater access for some of our partner schools for testing. The other part of the academic testing, which we've been able to help, is beyond admissions testing. We do quite a bit of sales with our partner schools who have IEP ESL programs. So if you go to Georgetown as an international student, for example, and you take their ESL, you're taking iTEP. If you go to Florida State ESL, you're taking iTEP. Right. And so we had just put the admissions testing at home in place when I think it was Georgetown that called us and said, we've got some students who are here, but they're in quarantine, and we're delivering their curriculum. We're teaching them online, but we need assessment online. So can you provide your test online for our program? And so we were able to use that same platform. And I think we're helping our ESL IEP partners pretty well through the spring and summer. And now more and more, it looks like a lot of the partners who were anticipating having on-campus ESL programs are going to be online in the fall.
That's great, and I'm sure the people that you work with are pretty happy that, I mean, they have test takers that just the convenience of being able to take the tests, in their own homes, and still you have a solid, reliable system in place. Jim, maybe a final question, if I ask you to gaze into that crystal ball you have on your desk there somewhere, and just thinking ahead, I mean, can you make a guesstimate maybe about at what point do you think test centers will be open again and things will kind of get back to normal, or is the current situation the new normal we're going to be dealing with for a while?
Yes, well, I think, first of all, I don't have a crystal ball, so I will give you my best estimate. But there is some good news. I think For the United States, for Canada, we went into this thinking a plan A, plan B. Plan A was a lot of the campuses would have students back on campus. Plan B, they would be online. I think more and more of our partners for the fall are going to have online classes.
Yeah.
The at-home testing will continue. How long will this last? That's anybody's guess. I turn on the news and one expert says one thing and one expert 5 minutes later says another thing. There is some good news. I will tell you, for us, it's not just about the United States. iTEP is around the world. So our partners in China, for example, we have students who are taking tests on campus in schools in China. Our partners in Turkey are open back to their offices, doing testing on site.
Right.
So there are some bright spots around the world. Equally, there are some, Brazil and Mexico, our partners are looking at pretty much being offline through the fall. So how long it will last, I don't know. I will say, I get asked quite frequently to predict the future, and I will say overall, I remain optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that I remember the Pacific Rim issue in the 90s when a lot of the Malaysian students had to go home.
Right.
Our enrollment bounced back. I remember 9/11 when we didn't know if we would be able to issue another F visa, and if we did, would the international students come back, and they did. So long term, I am optimistic about the future. Higher education in the United States is still the gold standard of the world. And so
Yeah.
long term, I'm optimistic.
Wise words, Jim. I think you're right. I agree with that. I agree with you also. Great. Thanks, Jim, for taking some time and telling us a little bit about how our things are looking from your perspective, and thanks for providing some insights for everybody to consider.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Okay.